Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Scott Reib. It's great to have you join us today.
Rocky, thanks for having me. I've been excited about coming on the show.
And excited for our conversation. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so I'm Scott Reib. We live and operate out of Denton, Texas, just north of Dallas. I have a law firm that I've had for 20 years, Reib Law, a consulting and event firm called the Shatterproof Solutions, where we've got the book, The Shatterproof Entrepreneur, and the podcast of the same name. And our mission is to help businesses grow and scale in a protected way.
Nice. And we're actually here to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, it was kind of interesting to see that you're a Zig Ziglar certified, I guess, is it coach? Is that what they call it? I don't normally see lawyers do that.
No, I only know of maybe one other lawyer that's gone through, and out of hundreds of people that have been through the program. And it's I'm a Ziglar Legacy Certified Trainer. There's a set specific courses that Zig created and taught that I now have the ability to go out and teach to the world, so I can be part of carrying on his legacy. It is unusual, except that I'm the Ziglar Corporation's lawyer, so it seemed like I should go through the training. I try to go through my clients' stuff, and it's easy when it's Zig stuff because I believe in it. You know, a big part of his philosophy was you have to be, then do before you can have. And so I went through the program. It's been very helpful in running my life and business, and then I'm able to share a lot of that wisdom with my clients and then at the events that I do. And so it's a real pleasure to carry that moniker and to be a part of that family.
So I'm thinking through this. You said you have to be, then do. So what is the being part?
The being is as Zig would say, you have to change what's coming into your mind to change where you are and who you are. And so you have to self-educate. You have to self-improve. You have to listen to tapes. If you're old like me, you podcast, read books, go to seminars, hire coaches to become what you want to be. Then you can start to do. And then once you do, then you can have, right? Because your attitude is going to inform your actions. And so to have the right attitude, you have to become what you want to become. And that's by education.
And this stuck out in my head because this conversation's been going on lately. The reality of the situation, and I've never been to a Zig event. I think he passed away before I started going to those kinds of things.
Yep.
I've been to Tony Robbins, and similar, different. I'm always amazed at how few people go to Tony Robbins and actually take action. And what's kind of come up lately is you need to just start doing and you will be. And so when you said that, I was like, huh. And I'm wondering if that's why so many people struggle with so many things. Like before we hit record, we were talking about profit first and how much of a struggle it is for many people. And our attitude's always been just do it. And then it'll start to work, even if you start with a tiny step. So we'll tell people, look, if this 5 account thing is too difficult, open 1 account. Call it profit, put 1% in it. Like, just start doing. And then you start to be.
Some contradiction that we're kind of seeing there in those two philosophies, it would seem. I think I can mesh them together. The Ziglar also said that anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly at first. So, right, you're going to be, and then you're going to be more, and then you'll be more, and so you'll be able to do more and do more. But you have to you take action. You can't get frozen in studying and listening. It's listen, learn, do. Listen, learn, do more. And so it's but the focus from Zig's perspective is on the self-improvement, which is obviously what he was teaching. But you're not wrong. You've got to take action, and some people have to take that step out, very little knowledge, and then they can start to learn and do more.
And I'm guilty of that. I know there are many things in my life where I didn't take action, and not taking action cost me millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the reality of it. So you're also an attorney, which we talked about. And one of the things that you mentioned is that business owners treat lawyers like emergency rooms. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been practicing for 28 years, and the first 3/4 of my career, I was a litigator. And I had a problem, and I had repeat business because my business clients would go sign deals, make mistakes, then call me and say, hey, can you get me out of trouble? When if they would have called me and said, hey, will you look at this document before I signed it? Like we talked about real estate prospectives and prospectuses and making deals and reading them before they just sign them. They Google it, dial a friend, do anything but call me. And so I had to do a deep dive. And, is it they don't like my personality? Am I doing something wrong? No, it's the way that attorneys bill. Because we bill by the hour, by the second, All they can see is dollars falling out of their pocket, so they don't come to me regularly. Instead of treating me like a primary care physician, or even better, maybe a personal trainer, where I'm spending time with them daily, weekly to get better, I just come when the house is on fire. And sometimes it can be fixed, but it's always more expensive.
It's funny you mentioned that because when I came up with my pricing model, the first thing we said is, so we have unlimited access for our
Yep.
clients. Whenever they need to pick up the phone and call me, they can. And the reason I said I did that is for two reasons. Number one, it's a lot easier for me to prevent your mistakes than fix them.
Yes.
And number two, I hate being billed by my attorney in 6-minute increments.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to sit there and go, is this a $250 question? I would rather you just pick up the phone or text or email me and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and we'll deal with it. Yes, no, maybe so. But so we built our entire model on removing every single barrier to doing business together.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir there. I think that stupid questions avoid stupid mistakes. And people say there are no stupid questions. They haven't been around long enough. I've heard plenty of them, but I don't want you to be afraid to ask me. I don't want it to cost you money to ask me. Just ask the question, and then we'll figure out if it's something that you need to change or do or don't do. But you got to ask the question. And so I love that you've removed that barrier for your clients. And that's what we did in 2012.
And so is that what built your subscription model?
That's right.
Okay. So tell us about how a subscription model works in the legal world, or how it could work actually in any business.
Yeah, it's called the Access Plan. I hired my first business coach in 2012 and said, hey, here's my vision. I want this on-demand legal system for entrepreneurs like me so they can ask all the questions they want and not get billed for every 6 minutes. I want their contracts reviewed. I want their LLCs and corporations formed correctly. And I want to have regular check-ins with them. And so we built this plan, and now we have 4 levels. So it goes everything from a launching business to what I call a legacy business, where they're planning succession and what's going to happen next. And we price it kind of based on your gross sales, but it's don't check your books. And then it's just we have different bells and whistles for the different levels based on the kind of use that they will have. All of it's unlimited access by phone and email so that they can ask those questions, because it's the things that you aren't telling your professionals that you're doing that could get you in trouble. Being transparent, people in the accounting world will say, hey, don't do it that way, do it this way. Legal world, same thing, just different questions. And going back to the healthcare analogy, the more comfortable I am with my doctor, the more I'm going to tell them about how I feel, what's happening in my life, what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, whatever I'm doing. They can help me more. The more information, the more they can help. Went to see a new primary care yesterday, and I left and called my wife and said, I really didn't like him. And she's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't. And so I'm going to find someone else, because I know that I will not want to go there. I will not open up and be transparent, and they won't be able to help me as much as they could. And I'm 55 and I plan on aging gracefully, and I need help to do that. So I know the value of it, and it's got to be someone I like. That's how our plan works. We have hundreds of entrepreneurs in that plan. We do monthly check-ins with them. Sometimes we don't talk about anything legal or even business related. It may be all personal and how life's going, because it's all about relationship. And I want them to not only know me, but like me, because then they'll trust me and they'll call me every time they need something, not just legal stuff.
Yeah, I'm surprised how often 6 months after I've been working with a client, they tell me something and I'm like, what? Yeah. Where did that come from? Like, you never bothered to mention you have another company or this issue, or, there's this, you haven't been paying your taxes for the last year. It would help to kind of know these things, but we can do our best.
They come out slowly over time as the relationship builds. You can't get all that in a discovery call. It just doesn't come out.
We ask some pretty deep questions in our discovery
call.
I
do too, but there's still things that come up when we're just having a casual conversation and the shields come down that you're like, oh, yeah, you can't do it that way.
And I think for your industry, this is a massive shift. Most attorneys can't fathom not billing by the hour because that's all they've been told. And I'll be honest, from what I understand, and talking to a lot of attorneys, they hate it too, because they hate timekeeping, right? And here's the real problem, and people don't realize this. When you're paid by the hour, there is no reason for you to be efficient, right? When you're paid value priced, which we'll talk about next, you are driven to efficiency because it's, hey, I got to deliver this service and I need to do it as fast and as quick as possible and as comprehensive as possible. And so it's almost a win-win because technically your hourly rate skyrockets, but it's because you've gotten so good at doing it and you can, and that is it. And that's kind of what you do, right? Value pricing versus hourly pricing, the value that they get versus constantly nickel and diming them for every hour they talk to you.
That's the old, it's the $10,000 for knowing which button to push or which switch to flip. It's the value you're giving instead of billing for your time. Because if you're trading your time for dollars, there's a limit to that. I don't care how good you are, how little sleep you think you need. There's a limit. You can definitely make a lot of money by the hour, and I see a lot of lawyers do it, but there's always an incentive to spend more time on things than it really takes. Can you resist it? Sure. But there's an incentive to do it. The formula is easy. If I want to make this, I have to bill this many hours. I only have this many cases. I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure I make money, right? That's how it works. So we don't have that problem because of the subscription. And then if there's things that aren't in the subscription, those are flat fee projects. We have to look at the project, give them a flat fee quote, and sometimes we lose money. That's how it's supposed to be. We're a business. Yeah, we have to have a professional license, but we run it like a business, and it puts us more on a level playing field with our clients. They're not suspicious of us because they know that we too have an incentive to be efficient because we want to make money just like them.
And that's the key. Everyone does need to make appropriate money and charge appropriately. But if you can bring more value, then that's kind of fair and it's reasonable. And I'll tell you, I think business owners like it too because they know they have a fixed expense.
Yes.
It's not a surprise. They know they have access, and it really takes down all the barriers to make it easier just to do. Another part of what you talk about is the art of documenting the deal. So what did you mean by that?
The art of documenting the deal is the steps that you take to make sure that you have a legally binding agreement. And that actually came up. I was doing a presentation. We were talking about digital signatures and things like that. And I think entrepreneurs really struggle. They're used to doing the handshake deal. Maybe they've got a quote, but it's just a handshake deal and they go do their deal. And then sometimes it works and then all of a sudden it doesn't. And so I came up with a system to kind of a quick and dirty, like, here's how you make sure you have a binding agreement. And you're doing the discovery calls, you're asking all the questions, you get to the deal points, and you're typing those down in a bullet point list. Then you send those deal points to the other party, and they can agree to those deal points. And if they agree, if they say, yes, I agree, you've got an enforceable written agreement under the law. So then the question is, what do the deal points need to be? So you need to always focus on the dates. What are the dates that you have to do something, that you expect something? Are they clear? Can everyone live with them? Next would be money. Do you have the money that's going to be paid and received clearly stated? And again, is it something that makes sense? And then I think you should always look at every deal before you actually agree to it and know why you're doing it. It should have a purpose. And if it doesn't achieve that purpose, don't deal the deal. If it doesn't take you the direction you're wanting to go, walk away from it. But once you've nailed those things down, then you want to know what happens if someone defaults. So we've built in a remedy. What if we need to fight? What are the rules? Are we going to go to mediation first? Are we going to go to arbitration? Are we just going straight to court? And then you also want to be very specific about the things you're going to actually perform that might not be payment oriented, but actions you're going to take or actions you expect them to take. And if you get all those things clearly detailed in your list and you both agree to those, then you've got a legally binding agreement. You can also then take that to your lawyer and say, here's what we have agreed to. I'll put the legal mumbo jumbo on it and send it back to us in a contract form. And then you can memorialize it in a formal writing. The email back and forth, if it's detailed and specific and clear, you can have a legally binding agreement that is way better than the handshake. Is it perfect? No. You can have something that's binding, and then you have a base to tag. Because here's the problem I see. A lot of us are doing business with people that we know, right? The world gets really small. And so it's people we know. We may be friends with them. We go to church with them. We're in a Rotary with them. And then this deal starts going south and someone's not doing what you think they're supposed to. If you don't have a written document to go back to and say, hey, Bob, you said you were going to do this on this date. I want to remind you of that obligation. Then instead you're calling them a liar. And that never goes well. Most relationships don't recover. But almost everyone's okay with you saying, hey, I think you've forgotten what we agreed to, and just show it to them in the agreement. Then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. That's what we agreed to. If you don't have that, the relationship's going to go south fast, and you've just now lost a business deal and a friend.
Before I respond to that, I forgot to say one thing about the value pricing. And that was, I bet you divorces would go a lot faster and smoother if the attorneys were paid a flat fee on each side.
That's funny. Yeah.
Because then there wouldn't be all this, hey, let's spend hours on your emotions and fight.
Yeah.
Be like, we're getting it done.
Yeah. And I built my law firm on doing family law. And the reason I have my firm at all is because I was doing uncontested divorces, because people would call me when I was doing litigation and say, hey, I need to get a divorce. I've called all these law firms. Everything agreed. There's not even any kids. And they want $3,000 to do the divorce. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. You don't need to get robbed at the same time you're getting divorced. And so we started doing them. This was back in 2003 for $500 plus whatever the court wanted. And I was covered up. And so when I left my old firm and started my new firm, I had done all those divorces over the last couple of years. Well, then they all needed stuff changed because things changed or they needed other stuff. And so I had a built-in client base to work from. And a lot of them had businesses. And so it helped me build my business. But had I not figured out how to provide them value, instead of billing them by the hour and raking them over the coals, then they wouldn't have been my clients. I wouldn't have had this firm. But one reason that it doesn't happen is, because it can cause a problem. If I were doing a little more complicated divorce and said, look, I know the other side's billing by the hour, but I'll do yours for $5,000 flat fee, and the other side keeps billing, my client has a disincentive to work to make the case go away. So you got to have both sides playing it the same way, or it doesn't work.
And I agree with you on that. So getting back to some of the points you made,
Anyway,
in the contract, your payment terms are there.
Yep.
And I am shocked at how often business owners don't think about their payment terms in terms of their cash flow and when money is going in and out on the deal. And doing that right and thinking through your cash flow so that you are always cash flow positive in each part of the payment structure instead of constantly going in arrears is a game changer. It allows you to scale. I know you get the book there, Scaling Up. It allows you to scale as fast as you want because money is coming in faster than the scale.
Right.
Whereas for a lot of businesses, when they go to scale up, money is coming in slower than the scale. And they actually run out of money, even though they're highly successful, and they go bankrupt. And then they need another attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well. And then the other thing is, so many of my business owners, they want to start partnerships with other business owners. And none of them take the time to do their partnership agreement. And as part of that, what I call their divorce agreement, their separation agreement, like you need to define your separation agreement before you go into an agreement.
Yeah.
Because one day your business partner is going to be a pain in your butt, or something's going to change, or they're going to get divorced. And now like you've got this whole other scenario, or they pass away, or they no longer, when you define that all up front, it becomes real simple. Hey, we agreed. This is how we're splitting. Here's the formula. Execute. You decide. You want in, you want out. Let's move. And so I think that's a big part of it. And the last part is after you send it to the attorney, and we were chatting about this, read it. Because what the attorney heard may not be what you all discussed in between on beers between the time you sent the email and the contract came back. Yeah. And so you got to make sure that it actually says what you meant. And too often that isn't the case. And like, it's funny because every time my clients do deals, I'm like, please send me your contract. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to read it from an attorney standpoint. I'm going to read it from a financial standpoint. I want to know, does this say financially what you said you were about to do, whether it's a buy or sell contract, meaning it's their contract to their clients, or a contract they're doing to invest or get involved in something. And luckily for my clients, like your clients, they pay me a flat monthly and They just go, yeah, go ahead and read it. It doesn't cost me anything. And sometimes they get 180-page documents. And
Oof.
well, but here's the good news. About 120 are mumbo jumbo. You can skip that, right?
That's right. You're looking for the
Boilerplate
meat and potatoes.
BS. I'm looking for the meat and potatoes to go through it. I'm just shocked at how often people don't. And I guess it's our culture today, the user agreements, everyone just gets, they just click, 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 and nobody knows what it says. And honestly, for most things, it's not worth reading. But when you're doing bigger things, it is well worth reading and well worth understanding kind of what's going on there.
There are some contracts that I even don't read. I learned a lesson when I bought my first house in '96. Just out of law school, closing on a brand new house. I asked them to send me all the closing documents the day before closing, up all night reviewing them, making notes, send them to the lawyer, and then my phone rings, and he's like, "Hey, I got your notes. Looks like you don't know the golden rule." Pretty sure I know the golden rule, do unto others as you would have others do to you. And he's like, "No, not that golden rule. The golden rule is he who has the gold makes the rules. If your wife wants that house, you'll sign those documents." Click.
Was this on the buy? You were buying? Was
buying
that
a
the
house.
sell side?
Buying a house. So
Okay.
I signed the documents, so my wife got her house. And I've learned that pretty much those documents are take it or leave it. It doesn't really matter what they say. They'll change them after the fact to make them say what they want to say.
Yeah, well, and honestly, those are the times where you have to say, well, I'm going to walk. And they now have to call their client, and their client's like, what do you mean my house isn't sold? I moved out. I have another closing in 2 hours. Go get me my money.
Yeah, and ours was new
Because
construction,
technically
and they
you
had
had the
buyers.
gold.
They had buyers waiting, so I didn't have any leverage. So I wanted to make sure my wife was happy. She was finishing up
No.
teaching in Oklahoma, and I was in Texas, and so we went and bought that house. But yeah, the golden rule isn't always what you think it is.
Yeah, and it's true. There are different. Again, that wasn't at closing? That was prior. That was the signing of the contract.
That was the night before closing.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny. We don't even go to closing. And I don't go to closing because I don't want to hear the last minute issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not available. Sign it or leave.
Like it.
Makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
What else should we let our listeners know about legal advice, contracts, and running their business in what would be the right word? Partnership with an attorney.
I think with an attorney, with a financial professional, it's all about being proactive. You can't be reactive. So you have to have a plan. You need to have a strategy. You need to have a relationship with that professional that you're paying attention to and spending time on. And if you do that, it takes you a long way down the road to what we call being shatterproof, where your business is going to bend and not break. Because it's not if there's going to be trouble, it's when. You want to make sure that you've got the right people on your side, that they know you, and that they can jump in and deal with your problem quickly and efficiently. And the way you do that is by being proactive. I think that's if you don't take anything else away from our conversation, it's be proactive with the way you run your business. Buy services in a value-based way. Don't pay by the hour if you can avoid it. And you'll end up being a much happier and much more successful business owner.
So I have a question for you. And it's kind of based on the books you got sitting there. Mm-hmm. So I have this joke because I'm in the financial space. And it's like, well, why'd you go to law school? Well, because there's no math class, right? And people don't realize this. Most lawyers are not good business people. Most doctors are horrible business people too. Yeah. But you're sitting here, you got traction, you got scaling up, you got 4-hour work week. Where did that kind of more entrepreneurial spirit of learning to put in systems, processes, and understanding all of that, was that something you had to learn, or was it just your natural way?
That is a great question. I had a business degree out of college, and in '91, which dates me, there were no jobs. I wanted to be an ad exec, and there weren't any marketing jobs. It was all sales. And so I was an authorized agent for AT&T back in like 92, 93. And I had the Tulsa, Oklahoma aftermarket. So I sold things for your business phone system, excellent sales training. And I learned how systems worked and had some pretty good success. They liked the systems I'd built so well that they actually reached my contract, took my territory away from me, and gave it to a minimum wage person, which made great business sense for them because I couldn't afford to take them to court. But I learned the value of doing that. I mean, I would sit at my dining room table, contracts on my dot matrix printer, writing sales letters, and we had a nice little system to it. And so whenever that went south, I decided to go back and retrain, and law school made sense. And so I took that into law school. And then I just have always kind of had that even entrepreneurial spirit when I was in law firms trying to figure out better ways to do it. I was the one that was trying to talk them into, let's get on the web. I was trying to figure out what are ways we can value bill. I started helping people sell businesses on a percentage because I loved delivering value instead of getting paid by the hour. I hated billing and I hated keeping track of all that stuff. And so it just kind of started coming natural. But when I started my own firm, then I really had to get serious about it. And the first book that kind of lit that fire was Gerber's E-Myth. And that really started the journey. And then I started hiring coaches. They started recommending books. And so, this is just a small stack of the books that I've been through. And, and I try to take something out of each book that I read. It's hard to implement all the stuff for sure, but it makes you a much smarter, well-rounded business person. And it helps me because I'm talking to business owners every day. And sometimes their biggest problem isn't a legal problem. Sometimes they've got employee problems, they have morale problems, they've got lead problems. And I want to have those solutions and have done that now for a decade. And so that's why we started Shatterproof Solutions, so that I could stop doing it for free. And so we offer the business coaching and consulting on that side.
Interesting combination. It's not your normal combination that you see. Very, very interesting. You said something there at the beginning, which I don't think most people would have probably caught. They cut you from your job, put a minimum wage person in, and you didn't have the money to go after them legally. He who has the gold wins, right? Going back to it.
That's right.
Is you really have to look at what is the financial situation on each side and how do they want to play it. And insurance companies, especially for smaller amounts, they're willing to just stroke a check to not even waste their time and money. So yeah, you have to look at these different things. And again, that's where I like the value of insurance and having very high limit policies.
Me too.
Because when you have high limit policies, their gold is its risk. And so they're more apt to fight for you than if you've got some low level policy, they just cut you a check and we're out, you go fight it now. And I don't think people realize how much their insurance companies can also help them fight situations when they get into some of these types of things. That they can. If people would like to learn more about you, your legal services, and your business coaching, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is go to scottreib.com. If you go there, you have access to both Reib Law and Shatterproof Solutions. You can also find access to podcasts and stuff there too. The other place would be at the Scott Reib on Instagram. And we will create a page actually on the Reib Law site. So it'll be reiblaw.com/Profit Answer Man, where we'll have a page just for listeners of this show. And you'll be able to download a sneak peek of the book if you haven't bought it yet. And there'll be a button where you can schedule what I call a laser legal coaching session with me. You can tell me all of your stories about your business adventure, and I will tell you what I think about it and how I think that I can, maybe some changes you could make to make it more legally efficient. And you can take those and go do them, or we can help you. But either way, it's a free call, no obligation. I just want to help as many business owners grow in a protected way.
Awesome. And we'll put those in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good, Rocky. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this unedited video of the Profit Answer Man podcast. If you'd like to catch the full episode and learn more about what we do, check us out at profitcomesfirst.com. We also go through the Profit First book in each and every chapter in the beginning episodes of the podcast, so check those out as well. Thanks for listening, and here's to you having a more profitable and growing business.